Students are participating in a cheerleading practice, 1958. The lady is home alone. A woman should always be alone with herself and her husband. It continues, a woman should never be alone with a man who is not her husband. Pro-communist protesters throw stones at Japanese police. The police used tear gas, pistols, and batons to contain the riots in Tokyo on May 1, 1952. Willie Mays makes a catch at the wall at Ebbets Field, 1954. It was 1969, and the Beatles were giving their final rooftop concert in London. The last Soviet division is leaving Afghanistan in 1989. A woman is enjoying dinner at a drive-in in 1952. Vietnamese family refugees, Vietnam, 1972. Sunglasses from the 60s. Kids are playing in a modernist playground in Redditch, England in 1971. Students in the 1900s are wearing paper sun visor anti-distraction hats. The hats were meant to block out distractions, so the students could focus on their schoolwork. A Boy Scout asks for Huey Long's autograph in 1934. Long was possibly getting ready to run against Franklin Delano Roosevelt in the 1936 election. He was shot at the Louisiana State Capitol in Baton Rouge on September 8, 1935, and died 2 days later. Ozzy Osbourne spent a weekend in France with his daughter Amy in 1984. Radio hat was introduced in early 1949 for $7.95. South African police are watching an ANC rally, and kids are teasing them from across the fence. This is in South Africa, Thokoza Township, Johannesburg, in 1991. There's a farmer and a horse, and this is in Scotland in 1921. Navajo Indian dwelling, a girl's at a hogan. Hogans were designed to withstand harsh weather conditions. The women's bicycle race was in Coburg in 1894. Street cheese vendor, Paris, France, 1938. Samuel L. Jackson in the 1960s. There's a Wichita Ute boy and his dog living on the slopes of the Wasatch Mountains in Utah in 1874. Charles Blondin is carrying his manager Harry Colcord across Niagara Falls on a tightrope. Charles Blondin was the first person to cross Niagara Falls on a tightrope on June 30th, 1859. A crossdresser is performing at a nightclub in Pittsburgh during the 1940s. A boy is playing outside with a toy gun during the Troubles in Northern Ireland, 1981. Dwight D. Eisenhower. At the vinyl store in the 70s. Canada, 1944. Boys on Stilts in Alberta really capture the feeling of childhood freedom and ingenuity. Alright, so we've got a sleeping berth on a luxury train, and this was in 1911. It even had electric lighting. August 1952, Los Angeles. Marilyn Monroe is at a publicity event for the film Don't Bother to Knock. Sliding on ice blocks, it's Paris at Place de la Concorde in 1938. American soldiers are at a Christmas dinner in Camp Logan in Texas, sometime between 1917 and 1918. Claudia Schiffer, Palmdale, California, 1992. The Queen of Oranges in the USA, Los Angeles, 1930. Brazilian President Lula with his family in 1978. It's a scene from the Warsaw Ghetto. Jewish people are wearing white armlets that have the Star of David on them. You can see trams there, marked with the words, "For Jews Only." This was on February 17, 1941. Kurt Cobain's talking on a mobile phone. This is in the United States. It's the 80s. Eddie Murphy is posing with his fellow cast member Robin Duke as part of a promotional photo shoot for Saturday Night Live's 7th season. This was in New York in 1981. Alright, so we're talking about surf Nazis in California around 1961. Magic the Gathering cards. Released in 1993, this trading card game is still around, but vintage cards are where the money is at, and many of them sell for hundreds on eBay. It's a random shot of spring breakers in Florida during the mid-80s. 14-year-old Sigourney Weaver attends a Beatles concert at the Hollywood Bowl, 1964. Stanley Kubrick and Malcolm McDowell during the filming of A Clockwork Orange, 1971. Fidel Castro and Leonid Brezhnev at the Kremlin in 1964. An American soldier is harassing a Japanese woman in Sapporo, American-occupied Japan, in January of 1946. Father Christmas is wearing a tin helmet while walking on Regent Street in London, England, carrying a bag of presents. It's 1940. Susan Sarandon in the 80s. (1994) Angelina Jolie, age 19. This is a racist sign from Johannesburg, South Africa, during the apartheid era. Testing of the experimental speedboat by Thompson and Reed. This happened in the United States in Michigan in 1940. Eleanor Roosevelt votes in Hyde Park, New York on November 3, 1936. The gantry retracted while Saturn V boosters lifted the Apollo 11 astronauts toward the Moon, July 16, 1969. The explosion of the atomic bomb from the Starfish Prime test lights up the night sky over Honolulu. It was 11 p.m. on July 8, 1962. Traditional clothes of dancers in the Kingdom of Thailand, 24th of April, 1952. U.S. President Harry Truman is awarding General Dwight D. Eisenhower the Distinguished Service Medal at an outdoor ceremony, while Mrs. Eisenhower looks on, 1945. Collaborators in Moffen-Meiden are being rounded up and publicly humiliated by resistance members following the liberation of the Netherlands, 1945. Rudolf Hess in his cell at Spandau Prison in 1986. Hess was the third most powerful man in Nazi Germany and the last surviving member of Hitler's cabinet. Simone Seguin, an 18-year-old French resistance fighter in 1944. Linda Hamilton and her identical twin sister, Leslie Hamilton, were at the premiere of Terminator 2 in 1991. Elvira moonbathing, 1987. In 1991, Princess Diana made an important and courageous gesture when she publicly shook the hand of an AIDS patient without gloves. Italian students attacked a Yugoslav car near the U.S. Embassy in Rome in November 1953. Paul McCartney is taking a bath in the 1970s. Chinese soldiers are operating a sound detector, and it's directing the firing of 3-inch anti-aircraft guns. This is happening around the city of Chongqing, China, on May 2, 1941. Carrie Fisher is trying on Peter Weller's glasses during a Giorgio Armani fashion show in 1980. The Red Hot Chili Peppers, New York, 1980s. Amari Chief is holding a tayaha. Future President Barack Obama in his high school yearbook photo taken in 1979. German soldiers are interrogating a Russian girl. They suspect she is a partisan, and this happened in Novorossiysk in 1943. Jamie Lee Curtis and Jennifer Love Hewitt, 1998. Judge Frank Caprio at the age of 7 with his father. Judge Caprio passed away after a recurrence of cancer. Guy de Rothschild and Marie-Hélène de Rothschild. The Rothschilds' Surrealist Ball, 1972. A Chinese American had a note saying he was Chinese, not Japanese, to avoid harassment at work during the 1940s. Thomas Whiteface, an Oglala Sioux man, in 1899. Ronald Reagan is with the Afghan Mujahids in the Oval Office in 1983. It's Frida Lyngstad from ABBA with Graham Tainton, who choreographed for the group back in 1979. A father buys a pedal car for his son in 1955. At the 1971 Ali Frazier fight at Madison Square Garden, Harlem drug lord Frank Lucas wore a chinchilla coat bought by his wife. The lavish outfit drew the eyes of law enforcement and marked the beginning of the end of his heroin empire. In 1972, when Marlon Brando gained custody of his son Christian from his mother, Christian later recalled, "It was like going from one nightmare to the next." New York techno music boys with a boombox in the 1980s. Miss John Devereaux, New York City's first licensed female barber, is posing for a photograph while shaving a client in 1927. German kids are watching two officers put up a poster announcing the mobilization of Berlin, August 1st, 1914. This is Portugal. The photo was taken sometime between 1900 and 1919. A Swedish farmer and his wife take their family on a tandem bicycle, 1949. American poet and writer Jack Kerouac is photographed for his documents while enlisting in the Merchant Marine. Kerouac joined the Navy in the summer of 1942 after voluntarily dropping out of Columbia University. Helga Goebbels with Adolf Hitler's dog, 1937. Boys are boxing barefoot in the street in Shadwell, and a crowd of their friends is watching. This is in London, in 1920. Young Angela Merkel and her first husband, Ulrich Merkel, in 1975. Chrysler's design for the atomic tank from the 50s. Men from Brooklyn who were drafted were leaving the Long Island Railroad Terminal on Flatbush Avenue for Camp Upton in September of 1917. Princess Diana met comedian Rowan Atkinson in 1984. Brigitte Bardot and Johnny Halliday are laughing over table football at Saint-Tropez. That was in 1967. United States Marines and sailors are posing on an unidentified ship, likely either the USS Pennsylvania or USS Arizona, in 1918. Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, and Princess Elizabeth, Duchess of Edinburgh, with their children Prince Charles and Princess Anne in 1951. Bread lunch for a poor family in Shadwell, East London, 1920. German children are playing in a park. Berlin, 1937. There are people outside of the First State Bank of Las Vegas, Nevada, in 1905. St. Paul's Cathedral, London, England, built 1675 to 1710. Howard University students are studying in the library's reading room. It was 1946. Experiments on models of vessels to illustrate various methods of camouflage on different types of ships. This was done by the Camouflage Department, U.S. Navy, in Washington, D.C. between 1917 and 1918. Princess Diana and Barbara Bush, the First Lady of the United States, are in the Yellow Oval Room in 1990. So we're talking about a psychiatric hospital from the early 1900s. That's Tupac's grandparents on his father's side. He looks like his beautiful grandmother. It's night at a police station in New York City in 1972. Cindy Crawford in 1988. John Lennon and Yoko Ono, 1971. In 1926, Toastmaster introduced the pop-up toaster to the American consumer market. What set this toaster apart was its use of a clock mechanism as a timer for toasting. The U.S. Capitol Dome was under construction in 1855. Goggles Girl, July 1942. Welding trainee at a Work Projects Administration vocational school in Washington, D.C. Angelina Jolie, 1998. A man arrested for cross-dressing is coming out of a police van in New York in 1939. Interrogation of Soviet soldiers detained drunk in the United States Zone of Responsibility in Germany, 1949. The latest X-ray machine is being used by a radiologist who's wearing the old kind of protective gear. Those aren't needed anymore with the modern equipment. This is part of a radiological exhibition taking place in Central Hall, Westminster in 1934. This is what Netflix's homepage looked like in 1999, 1 year after it launched. The armorer of the RAF's Middle East Command is preparing a bomb for its mission against the Italian forces campaigning in Africa. This big bomb isn't fused yet, but when it is, it'll be ready for its deadly work. The photo was taken on October 24, 1940. Gerald Ford, probably in the 1930s. It's a friendly exchange between Soviet troops on a BTR and two Afghan kids riding a donkey. Their convoy is passing down the highway in Afghanistan, sometime in the 1980s. Marilyn Monroe is getting her hair done with her hairdresser Agnes Flanagan. This was in 1962. Larry King, Florida, 1971. There was a computer lesson in 1972. Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman, and Stanley Kubrick are on the set of Eyes Wide Shut in 1999.